There is a good saying, a soldier who doesn't want to be a general is not a good soldier. In general, we refer to leaders. So raise your hand, who want to become leaders? Who wants to become leaders? Right. So I'm very glad to see there are so many young people of University of Central Asia are inspired to become leaders, right? So that's really awesome. So gradually, but however, who are those leaders? What are the characteristics, the images when leaders come into your mind? Think about that. A person is brave, a risk taker, a decision maker who is responsible, who is self-confident, or maybe sometimes obsessive and decisive, even bold. A person who has control over, have power. Who are those leaders you admire the most? Think about that. And I'm pretty much sure you would agree with me, all those leaders' images, the concept of the leadership is highly masculinized and is quite standardized. Yes? So I would like to use my personal experience in living in different countries and cultures to tell you how leadership is shaped differently. I am ethnic Kyrgyz, born in China. I received my basic education in Chinese school. So at the age of 10, I first tasted the students' leadership role. For your information, in my class, there were 60 students, and there were 11 such class groups in the whole grade. So when we graduate from the school, I graduated with 600 students together. That competitive it is. So the basic criteria for students' leadership in China, of course, is their academic performance. I was always under the expectation, like I have to remain my A level all the time. But that's not enough. I still need to manage students, lead the student, discipline, and in order. So when a Chinese teacher enters the classroom, she would announce in Chinese, 上课, class begins. And I would call all the students, stand up, 起立, 老师您好, greeting the teacher until she commanded us to sit down. 请坐, sit down please. This is a respective manner we did at the beginning of every single class. And there is a very complicated and competitive leadership structure in Chinese school. For example, we have group leaders, 小组长. We have subject-based leaders, those students, 课代表, for those students who study certain subjects very well. There's a mathematics rep, physics rep, chemistry rep, even music class rep. So the class leader, 班长, I was responsible for managing all of these leadership groups. Could you imagine how challenging it was for a 10-year-old girl? So from the early school time, I understood leaders must be competitive and competent in order to be recognized with official honor. And my power came from the authority. So it's my class teacher to help lead the school group and then give the comments to keep things functioning. Later, I immigrated to the Kyrgyz Republic, got enrolled to American University of Central Asia for my bachelor's degree. Afterward, I did my first master's degree at Columbia University in America. So basically, my higher educations were mainly American institutions. There were two striking academic culture shocks for me. The one, American teachers and professors are extremely friendly and down to earth. So they don't oppose this kind of authority to the students. And second, students have the ownership and the privacy over their grades. So I really, honestly, I did not remember who had the highest GPA, I don't remember. And it's very difficult to differentiate students based on their academic performance. But back in China at that time, we would, every time after the exam, we will publish all the scores of 600 people together. You see absolutely everything, that competitive. So that's, of course, a totally very different kind of picture. So I remember there was one Chinese student approached to my American professor. He asked, like, why I received B+ if all my paper assignments received A? An American professor said, because you never spoke in class. American education institution, they encourage students to speak out, to advocate, to actively participate in extracurricular activities. So their student leadership extends beyond academic performance, including personalities and also community involvement. I totally forgot to put on my slide. Guess what? So this is a Chinese classroom environment. Here, at my undergraduate study, I was very active together with Carla Gach and Nadia Park. We co-founded our charity group, Student Club. My role as a co-founder, I found my power came from my expressive personality and calling the students, volunteers to join our missions. And at the Columbia University School of Social Work, I wanted to join the election of the Student Executive Board as an international student representative. I still remember that time, I was holding all the campaign posters, feeling a little bit hesitated to make an open lobby. And very close classmate and friends of mine, Sophia, came to me. After learning my intention, she just grabbed the poster and hung it all on the wall. And she said, hey girl, don't be shy. Fake it until make it, y'all. So I was like really very kind of funny and very grateful for her support. And indeed, I became the kind of student representative. That's American lifestyle, good lifestyle. Thank you. This is purely based on my personal experience. I'm not generalizing it to all American people or Chinese people. So based on experience, I feel like the leadership in America, the way of being leader, they emphasize more on individual qualities, such as charisma, self-confidence, empowerment, autonomy, and spotting this kind of visible figures. But in China, the leadership, they value the group cohesion. They emphasize your ability to stay in harmony and respect to authority. So it was very hard. By the way, my parents, I was very active in America in different student life. They, with their Chinese minds, they would always reminded me, 小心哦，枪打出头鸟. It means be careful. The hunter will shoot the bird who flies the highest. So put it in short, they want me to be humble. Okay. So I found it very challenging to navigate this different leadership culture because I live in different countries. That's why I decided to go to Singapore to find the answer. Yeah. Remember, in Singapore, it's a very multinational, multiracial culture, but more than 70% of population, they're ethnic Chinese. Do you know there are two types of Singaporean Chinese? There are mango and banana. So mango are those people who are yellow outside and yellow inside, Asian. And banana are those people who are yellow outside, inside is white. When I moved to Singapore, it was 2019. Do you remember there's a movie that came out like Crazy Rich Asian? Yes. So my sister excitedly came to me like, sis, are you going to mix those crazy rich Singaporeans? But when I landed in Singapore, no matter mango or banana, they appear to be extremely humble. Yes. And Singapore also has a great economy in the world market. But all my Singaporean friends, they always say, oh, we are such a small country, we need to be friends with everybody. So Singaporean style is their value meritocracy and the pragmatism as well as the diplomacy. I would like to share the real case. There were like two teaching assistants of my Singapore professor. One is female, one is male. So I remember always the male teaching assistant, he would always stand in the front, helping the professor to facilitate the class discussion. As a female assistant, she would just go in back and taking all the notes in the backstage. You know me, I'm a proud feminist. So I told to one of the breaks, I said, came to this women's assistant and I said, listen, why you always do the note-taking? It's unfair. You guys, you have the same kind of similar workstation, but she seems like not bothered that much. She looked very calm. And she asked me the question instead, then who would do the note-taking? Because nobody was doing that. So that is a big aha moment for me. Isn't that service is also kind of a leadership? Because nobody did the note-taking. So that's why she initiated this. She was helping us to document all these learning insights to support our learning process. That's from that experience I started to redefine what leadership meant to me. I have a feeling like leadership, it does not have to be competitive on the stage, under the spotlight. Leadership can be also very humble services in the backstage. Maybe sometimes people even don't notice or recognize them. But no matter, at the end of the day, all different type of leadership to achieve one goal is to realize your collective goals. So in this scenario, both female and the male teaching assistant, their goal was to help us to learn. I think they both realize this with different style. Despite all these kind of differences in different culture, I actually did recognize there are some patterns in leadership formation. That's why I dare to take this approach. I wanted to present out to the public the first time. I call it this leadership equilibrium. So we have leaders, and we also have people in order to have leaders, correct? Because you interact with people, with your team, with your community. Inspired by the Simon Sinek, he talked about the evolutionary history of leadership. Back into the primitive society, when they were a hunting society, there were so many risks outside. So those hunters, those leaders, they went out from the tree. They were ready to take the risk, even sacrifice themselves in order to protect their tribe. So those people, the tribe members, they decided, had reached agreement, let's share the group resources, including this food, materials, coins, social status, to the leaders, because he's risking for us, right? So they come to this agreement. So this is sort of kind of social contracts they build it between leader and the people. I also want to mention, like, those resources actually is the source of the power. Very important point. Resources and the power come from people to the leaders. In nowadays modern times, a lot of leaders come to their position, they automatically assume they have the power because of their positions, which is wrong. That's why we are saying there's not so-called government's money. There are taxpayers' money. It is the money of people. You agree? Yes. This is so important to remind all these people, like, power comes from people. That's also like when I was at Lee Kuan Yew School of Public Policy, I asked the dean, I assume like government is the most powerful organ. I said, how people get the power from government? He said it the same. Power comes from people. And the goal of having power is not for leaders' interest, individual interest, not for leaders to oppose something, to oppress people. The goal of the power, use power to empower more people so that more people will generate more resources to the leaders. So in this cycle, we can grow our prosperity and sustainable community all together. This is like a first segment. Nevertheless, a good leader with a good power still is not effective if he or she does not create a safe environment for people to build trust. Agree. That is why I have a feeling like it's the same strategy. You then leader use the trust to entrust, make more people to trust them. In this pattern, we create a trustworthy community together. And look at this diagram. This is a beautiful energy flow. Power come and power come back again. And we need to balance between leading and the serving, leading and the serving. In the very end of my TED talk, I want to share the wisdom of Chinese great philosopher Lao Tzu. He was born 2,500 years ago. He understood this. So 老子说，天上不知有之，其次亲而誉之，其次畏之，其次侮之，不信而焉，有不信焉。 功成事遂，百姓皆为我自然. This is the Asian Chinese language. I try to translate into a simple language, aligned with this or my leadership equilibrium I just presented. So Lao Tzu summarized 4 types of leadership. The least type of leadership, it is a leader who does not have power, does not have trust. So they ended up staying in the empty shell without any change. So I want to present using the metaphor. For example, there was a bridge broken after the storm. So this lowest level of leader, he doesn't have any power to do anything. So he just leave it as it is. And it brings inconvenience to people's life. People don't like this leader, they hate this leader. This is the last point. And the second level is a leader with power, but without the trust. We often come across with this, yes? And people will follow these leaders because of fear. I often realize in my observations, this type of leadership result in very aggressive, authoritarian leadership style, which does not actually last very long. Same metaphor. So the broken bridge, by this type of leadership, leader will command the people to fix it. People will do it. But they did it because they are afraid of him. There's a third type of leader, leader with power and leader with a trust. People love them, people follow them, not because of the fear, but because of the love. And they praise this leader, great, awesome. This leader, he or she will fix this bridge broken, and then everybody will praise him, recognize his influence. He is a hero or she is a hero. Yes, it's a happy ending. I think it's in any healthy society, people want to reach this kind of leadership style. But wait, this is not the end. Because Lao Tzu said there's an even highest level leadership. What is that? It's a leader who has power, who has a trust, and they serve his or her people in such a way that people become leaders themselves. So in this metaphor, this highest level of leader, he or she would fix this bridge even before the next day. And the next day, all people wake up. They even did not notice it happened. They continue their happy life. They don't know the leader's presence. They continue their life. But this is extremely difficult, people, because of human nature, our ego, yes? Our ego want to be recognized. Our ego want to be praised. Our ego want to be appreciated. I'm not saying like I'm reaching to that level. It's very difficult to reach, but I'm challenging myself to learn towards that level kind of leadership. And I have a feeling, so the highest leadership, put it in simple language, leaders empower people to become leaders themselves, even without the presence of leader. And this leader remain in the heart of the people, and they become champions. So this is a transformation from leadership to championship. In the very end, ladies and gentlemen, we want soldiers to become generals. To be a general, we need to balance leading and serving on the battlefield. General receives the power and the trust from soldiers in order to serve those soldiers, to have more soldiers follow them. And the ultimate true championship is to help those soldiers to become generals themselves. So the question, are you ready to be the next champion? Thank you all.